Good morning. Let's go ahead and sit down. As those of you who've been here before, you know I like to start right on time. And I am so grateful all of you are here. We have one other panel member who's running a little bit late, but you know I always start with a little announcements first. So hopefully he'll be here in time. So I'm Christy, and this is the end of my third year of hosting these. Thank you. So it is been a blessing, and it's been just wonderful. So anyway, let's get started. Next slide. So please, who's new here? Is anyone new, or are all of you experienced people? Oh, nobody's new? Okay, so we can skip this. You guys know to check your phones, right? Make sure they're not gonna ring. If they do ring or buzz you, please step outside. Don't just try talking next to your neighbor because it's kind of annoying. Okay, so the good news is it's actually time to start with my panel. And I'm so excited to have them here. They're both going to bring a lot of insight. So Jonathan and Sandy, please come on up here. I'll have you guys take a seat. And what we're gonna do is first have them tell you a bit about who they are, so that as they're speaking, you'll understand why I invited them to speak on this topic that I think is pretty exciting, aging in. So Jonathan, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself first, and then we'll have Sandy, and then we'll go through the questions, okay?
Great.
Make sure your green light's on.
Hi everyone, my name is John Schwartz, and I had the privilege to sit on this panel now a couple times, so thank you for having me back. My background is in the field of aging. 20 plus years ago, when I was in college, my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And at the time, I never met anyone, I'd never heard of the disease. My grandparents had all the money in the world. We had family that was in the area to help support. And I couldn't help but think how hard of a time my grandmother, the primary caregiver, was having, managing his care and our whole family. And we had everything. If we were having a hard time, what is everyone else going to do? And so from that experience, from that moment, I decided I want to dedicate my life and career to helping older adults. I'm from California originally, and I've been working in the field of aging now here in San Diego for 20 plus years. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Jonathan. Sandy?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandy Montgomery, and I am so grateful to be here. So thank you, Christy, for inviting me. I do want to say this is my first time actually speaking in front of a group. So I'll give myself a little pat on the back. I have a lot of really fun things to share with you today, but a little bit about myself is I'm originally from Chicago, and I spent 35 years in the hospitality industry, growing businesses and doing a variety of things. Then the pandemic hit. I'm in California trying to figure out what is next for me. And like Jonathan, I had a family member, my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's at the age of 55, which was very devastating. But doing the math, I was in my 20s. So I didn't really understand. I had lots of things going on in my life. But that came back to me in 2021. I started thinking about that. And I started to think about what my purpose is. So I'm in my 60s, and I'm making a big change. And I'm thinking, what is it that's meaningful and purposeful, and what is my passion? And I knew it was going to be with seniors. And so I fell into this. I was very lucky to be given a position to work in senior living, and it's been amazing. So I'm very grateful to be here today. I'm very grateful to share some of the stories and some of the things that I've learned along the way and how I was inspired.
Thank you, Sandy. So we're going to start the panel question part. And Jonathan, I'm going to start with you. As a gerontologist, you've studied and witnessed what contributes to healthy, purposeful aging. What have you found to be the key ingredient to aging young?
So, what is the key ingredient to aging well, right? I would be, I think, a billionaire if I had that recipe. Over the many years of talking, working with older adults, the things that I see people that age quite well are those that have a purpose. It's really easy as we are young to have a purpose. I've got young kids, and this morning I got out of bed because they're pulling me and screaming at me. And then I go to work. But then after retirement happens, and there's no kids waking you up, what is that thing that gets you out of bed? So I think purpose is certainly number one. Connection is another incredible, important ingredient to aging well. It's devastating how many older adults that I see, how many people, forget age, that have that lack of connection. And it's becoming more and more challenging in this digital world that we live in. And then certainly attitude. It's incredible when people have a positive attitude and outlook and are optimistic, how protective that is for our health. And the better we feel, most likely the better we age.
Thank you. Many people view aging as a time of decline, but your work reframes it as a time of growth and meaning. What mindset shifts help people see aging in a more positive light?
Would you believe, I wouldn't believe this until I'm kind of living in this, what do you think the decade of the least happy years of one's life typically are here in America? I'm right in it.
Teenagers.
Now you're teenagers, 15 to 25. Data shows that the least happy years of life are in your 30s and 40s. And so I'm super excited because I'm living right in that now. Data, yes.
Can you say why that age span is the least happy time?
Yeah. So I'm going to get into that. What is exciting as we get older is we tend to spend more time engaging in the things that we want to and the people that we want to be with. When we're younger, we're tied to financial pressures and parenting pressures, and our schedule is a lot more confined to things that we maybe have to do. And as we get older, if we can get to a point where we get to do things that we actually want to do, that's where happiness is. Christy, the question again.
I'm turning the page already. So many people view aging as a time of decline, but your work reframes it as a time of growth and meaning. What mindset shifts help people see aging in a positive light?
So this happens with both that I see, and I can understand when we retire, in some regard, we stop competing and stop engaging. The people that age the best are still interested in competing, whether that's a sport like pickleball, I don't know how many of you play, no, or bridge, or whatever that is. It is so critical for aging successfully to stay engaged and compete, and to keep that mindset.
One of the things that I'm seeing too, especially being involved with Village and Sanitas, is when you're helping other people. You know, when you're involved in actually contributing instead of just staying in your own little world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you often talk about the importance of purpose in aging well. How do you define purpose? And how can someone rediscover after major life changes like retirement or loss?
So other cultures, I'm sure many of you have heard of the Blue Zone, and one of the Blue Zones is in Okinawa, Japan, and they have a word for purpose as we get older, and they call it ikigai, and it's for the reason I wake up each day. And I think that's a really good definition of purpose. What is that reason that we get up each day? But like I mentioned earlier, as we get older, it's hard to maintain that reason. What is that purpose? What is that reason that we get up each day? And what Christy alluded to is there are different phases of life. And I believe, there's no fact to this is just my opinion, that what is the purpose of getting older? And I believe the purpose of getting older is to be a mentor for future generations. The happiest older adults engage in that mentorship. My son plays soccer, he's 8 years old, and his coach is 80 years old. I'm not kidding. And this 8-year-old man is running up and down the sideline screaming at him. And my son listens better to him than he does to me. There's a word for being that mentor, and the word is being generative. And that's making the world a better place for future generations. Because as we get older, we have more time, wisdom, expertise, and often we have more money, which makes our ability to give back and contribute in a meaningful way a lot more possible.
In thinking about that and purpose and giving back, all of us had strengths that as we were younger, our careers, things like that. One of a client who became a friend, when she retired, she always loved reading. And so she now mentors or works once a week with a gal who's struggling with being able to read. And she said that it's the joy of her life, is doing that. So it's often taking what you really enjoy and helping somebody else with it. Yeah. What role do social connections, curiosity, lifelong learning play in helping people stay mentally and emotionally vibrant?
Oh gosh. So the social piece I'll highly touch on. And the average older adult, 65 plus year old here in America, watches close to 50 hours of TV alone, and volunteers fewer than 2 hours a year. And so that's a major epidemic. I imagine everyone that's here is not in that category because you're here. And so we have a significant challenge on our hands as a country as more and more older people are coming to our country. The boomers are turning 80 years old in a couple of months and starting in January. And so we have a real challenge how to allow people and get people to be socially engaged. And I believe that is such a critical component to aging well. You all may have better ideas or thoughts than I have, other than just don't give up. What is something that you're interested in, and go out and seek it. The internet is amazing because you can find groups just by searching, just by thinking now, all of a sudden a group will come to you, but you do have to take that initiative to go find it.
So talk a bit about curiosity, why that's important.
Yeah, like so I mention my kids a lot. They, in school, are always asked, whether it's in school or by adults, what is it you want to be when you grow up? We ask kids that. Our society always asks children, what is it that you want to do? It's a lot of questions focused on the future. But why, as we get older, why do we ask questions about our history, about our past? There's a story that I love, and I'm sure I've shared it to some of you. I heard this story years ago, and it really reframed how I think of aging and curiosity. The story is that John Glenn, the famous astronaut, was in his late 70s, and he went to outer space. This was in the late 1990s. He went to outer space one final time. He was 77 years old. And shortly before he took off to go to outer space, he was interviewed, and the interviewer asked him, Mr. Glenn, why are you doing this? This is really hard on your body, it's hard on the mind. What else do you still have to prove? And the story goes that John Glenn looked at this interviewer, and he looked pissed off. And he said, just because I'm 77 years old doesn't mean that I still don't have hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And I just love that question, right? Is why do we give up our hopes and dreams, aspirations at a certain point as we get a bit older? And so it is critical to act like John Glenn and to still maintain those hopes and dreams. I've loved asking people, just like folks ask my kids, what is it you still want to do? I love asking older people what it is they still want to do. So think about that question to yourself. What is it that you still want to do? And to try and make that happen. Ask people for help in that way, because our society, our community really needs your expertise to give back, and be curious.
So one of the other points was on learning, which we probably don't need to talk much about because these people have been, a lot of them have been with me all 3 years and come to all of them. So they really embrace learning. But as a gerontologist, why is learning important?
So I think one of the things that we're most afraid of is dementia, right? For whatever reason, people that have advanced degrees, and these are just pieces of paper, have lower rates of dementia. Why is that? It's possible that they have something called a higher cognitive reserve, right? The more stuff we know, the slower we show signs of dementia. And so to use and stimulate our brain is perhaps one of the most important things we can to slow that brain aging down, or slow that brain decline down. There are institutions like Osher and Oasis. Have you heard of these groups? You can take classes on everything and anything. There's obviously Christy and Rick's seminars. There's the internet. It's amazing the information that we can learn. Find that thing that you're interested in.
So one last question. For those who feel stuck or disconnected, what's one small but meaningful step they can take to start re-engaging with life?
It's just, it brings tears to my eyes, because earlier this morning, I struggle with this. And I love the work I have, I love my family. And my sweet son, he's 8 years old. This morning, he was, it's hard. He goes to school, he wakes up pretty early. And I said, is it hard to get out of bed? And he said, he's 8, this guy is like incredible. He goes, I just tell myself, today is going to be a good day. And so I think as adults, we forget that. And I think it's so important to keep telling ourselves that. I'm going to keep saying that and fake it until I hope it becomes a habit for me. Today is going to be a good day. I think, it is so important that we have someone in our life to reach out to. Our social network, as we get older, our family network gets smaller. And so those people in our life become so important. So I encourage you to reach out to your friends, your family, a stranger, anyone you know. These small interactions at even like a place like a retirement community, these hello, how are yous, can be so protective to our mind and our body.
Okay, we're going to move on to Sandy. Sandy, you work closely with residents as they make one of life's biggest transitions. What qualities do you see in people who thrive and age young once they move into a senior community setting?
Sure, I want to start with not everybody who moves into a senior living community is skipping on in, I'm ready to go, let's have a good time. Most of the time, I would say that's probably about 5% of the folks that move in, right? Most of the time, this is a big challenge. You're leaving a home, you're downsizing, or some people say right-sizing. You have memories of your home. It's a big challenge. And therefore, taking that leap of faith, which I see every day people do, I see the miracles that come after that. But really, that first step is the most important step, that you're willing, you're courageous, and you're open to something new and starting a new chapter. So once that happens, to go back to your question, is when we see things start to come to fruition. The question I always ask people is, what brings you joy? right? That could be something that you haven't experienced in a very long time. So it's important for us, for those of us that work in senior living, to help you discover or rediscover the things that bring you joy. And once you do, and you meet with the other residents, and you start to explore, you start to make connections, you start to listen to music, dance, sing, all these wonderful things is what I see in the transition with people that move into senior living.
That's wonderful. What surprises new residents most when they begin to settle in, especially about connection, activity, and purpose?
I think the biggest surprise is we think, oh gosh, we're going back to school, we're going back to college, we're going back to whatever it is, and there's this fear that people aren't going to let you in, or you're going to feel awkward, or you're going to feel uncomfortable, or there's going to be cliques. I hear that all the time, oh, there must be cliques. That's not going to feel good. And the biggest surprise to me when I go and I meet with folks after they've moved in, I do another check-in after about a week, and they say, oh my gosh, Sandy, everybody's so nice here. Everybody's so friendly. And that just puts the biggest smile on my face. And it really comes because we all know what it's like. We've all done that before. We've all had that first day. And so the warmth and the welcoming and your neighbor checking in on you when you first move in. I have residents that come to me on a regular basis to ask me who's new, who needs help, who hasn't had lunch with another resident. And so we see this kind of full circle moment happen, which is really, really lovely.
So one of the things that I think of my mom and Harry, who most of the attendees here have heard stories of my mom and Harry moving into a senior community, and Harry did not want to move in. He did not. He was an engineer, and but they became so isolated. Once he moved in, he started finding other engineer friends, and he was walking with them, and they would sit at the tables together. And so that connection. But it doesn't happen overnight, but it's like to see them both bloom so much was just amazing to see that.
There's so many things that we all have in common that we don't realize to that point. I'll give you a quick example of a young gal that moved in, and after renting her apartment, it took her 2 months to actually physically move in out of just pure fear. And she was very introverted and very scared. And I would meet with her. She'd come by and I'd talk to her, and I just can't do it. I just can't. This is just too much. It's too overwhelming. Well, finally, she did take that leap of faith, and we found someone who was actually the exact opposite. She was an extrovert. She was a tough gal. Like, you don't cross her, this other gal. You don't cross her. But the two of them matched up just perfectly. And to this day, you can come in at any given time if there's an activity, lunch, dinner, or something going on. The two of them have found each other, and it's a perfect friendship. And then we have two gentlemen, the same thing. I call them twins. I see them every day, and they found each other. So to your point, it could be something that you've done in your past or your profession. It could be your spiritual faith that connects you. It could be that you just like to, bird watch, or you like to go for walks. There's so many different things that we can connect on, and our job is to help facilitate that.
So one of the other things that in that question was about purpose, and you touched on the lady that I asked who the new people were, but also you have like committees to help with like food or different things like that. How else do people get involved and have a purpose there?
Absolutely, there's so many. Purpose and passion kind of go hand in hand. What's your passion, and how does that turn into your purpose, right? And so it could be, we have a resident council. So essentially residents, those that want to run the council will be elected in, and those that want to participate, have a voice, will come to the monthly meetings. Then that goes into subcommittees. We've taken it a step further in our community, and we've actually started a volunteer committee, because we've found that many people just want to volunteer outside of the community. We have intergenerational activities that they want to get involved in. So there's so many different things. I do want to touch on one more thing that's very important in the process of moving someone into the community, is understanding. I go back to the question of joy. So by way of example, I talked to someone recently who said to me, I love to do Chinese calligraphy. Okay, when was the last time you did that? Oh my gosh, years ago. I'll never do it again. I used to do that so many years ago. Why wouldn't we? Would you like to maybe teach that to some of the other residents? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be interested in learning that technique. We'll buy the materials. If you like, we'll bring another person in to help you facilitate. So I have to brag a little bit. Our lifestyle director is amazing. She is always asking the residents, that's just the example, of what it is that you want to bring into the community, and how would you like to share that, and how can we help you make that happen?
So you touched on a lot of good points. Some of you may recognize Sandy. We went to Westmont, and she is the person that helped us learn about the organization. She actually was at Encinitas, now she's at Carmel Valley. But as she's speaking, I know some of you are thinking, I don't want to go to a community like that. But also, as she's sharing that, you can put, okay, I'm aging in place. What can I do to help others? What can I do to have a purpose? And here in Encinitas, here at the Senior Center, there's a lot of activities. I came by one day and there were a bunch of guys hanging out. It looked like a pool hall. They had a room with pool and they were all hanging out there. I have a client who is very into knitting, and she had joined a knitting club and came to it. So there's a lot of other things out there. It's a matter of thinking, what is it that I like to do? And it's like, how can I get involved in that? Sandy, let's go back to you. How do you and your team help people rediscover meaning and joy once they've let go of their home and are starting a new chapter in their life?
Yeah, that's a very good question. But that goes again right back to discovering what it is that is their passion, what it is their joy, what is it that is fearful, right? Education, things like this that you're doing today, helping people make the first step out of their apartment. Sometimes it's difficult to make the first step in the morning, to get up, get yourself dressed, and walk out the door. And that's the same for me too, but for all of us in the room, but also when you're living in a community. So it's our job to check on you. It's our job to encourage. It's our job also to be the person to listen when something isn't going well for you. Because every day is not going to be, joy and happiness and, I'm going to go to this activity. You may have something. I have someone right now who confidentially shared with me, an independent living resident. This person is independent and no care, just aging in place, and recently shared with me that they had an unfortunate diagnosis. So that was an opportunity for me to really lend a shoulder, to be there, to guide, to offer, not to tell, not to, but just to be an ear. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of listening. We do probably 80% listening, right? That's what we all can do more of, I suppose. But I wanted to touch on one thing too, if I could just go back for 1 minute, and that is the senior centers, which are amazing. I know the Encinitas Senior Center, I myself need a little encouragement because I need to get out here. I'm a senior. So I need to start doing more in my personal life. So I hope that I do that. But I also want you all to know that, senior living communities can be intimidating. You're not ready for it. I get it. I understand it. But please do know that you are always welcome to visit, to come, bring a friend if you don't want to go along. There's no pressure. It's just visiting. It's trying an activity. It's exploring. And I will give you an example of a gal that I was having in every month. Every month she would come to an activity. She wasn't ready to move in. She was in her 70s. She was doing fantastic in her 70s, but she would come and she would have fun with us or let me know when she couldn't make an event. But in her case, sadly, something happened and she called me one day and said, oopsie, it's time. And the good thing for her was that she knew and understood what it was about instead of just exploring it when she needed it, which would have been a much harder thing to do.
Yeah, and I would guess probably half of the people here would probably say they're going to age in place. And as you know, I encourage people to go out and look at the different communities, even if you're gonna age in place, just for that reason, because that's what happened to my mom. They were gonna live in their condo until they lived to be 100, until the doctor said you couldn't go home. So I know you've heard me preach this before, but it's important because it's, to me, it's such a personal thing because I saw it happen to my mom. So, and what Sandy's saying, it's perfectly okay to go visit places and not feel obligated that you're going to go there. All the different senior communities are like that. So, you know, take that opportunity. You can sometimes get a free lunch. You get
There's a lot of free things. That's the best part. The food's really good, it's fun, we love to dance. Those of you that like to dance, come join me.
Could you share a story of someone who found new energy or passion in this stage of life? Perhaps something unexpected that inspired you?
Oh my gosh, there's so many stories, so many stories. I think my biggest inspiration is a gentleman who is a World War II veteran. And there are very few, unfortunately, still with us. And every day I'm blessed to see this gentleman is an inspiration. Moved into senior living. The one thing I want to also say is participating isn't always doing what's going on in the room. Participating can be just observing, just being present. For those of you like me that are introverts, just showing up is participating. And this is a good example of someone, and by the way, he was just knighted by the President of France for his service overseas during the war. And what's so fascinating is that every single day, this person will get up, get dressed, and come downstairs. Not stay in the apartment, not stay watching the 50 hours of TV. I'm sure he watches TV because I've visited with him. Every birthday, and by the way, he's 104. And every birthday, he goes out, swings the club with his daughter, goes out to hit the golf ball a little bit here and there, but he shows up. He goes, he eats lunch by himself, that's okay. It's in the dining room with others, but he's at his table and he's smiling and he's laughing, and he will always, always stop to say hello to you when you come into the community. And so to me, that you're still doing that, you're still giving back. You gave back to the country, you've done so much for us, and you're still taking that step every single day is extremely inspirational to me. I get a little teary about that one. I think about it often. In fact, I thought about him this morning when I was driving in. I thought, oh, I've got to go see him today.
That's wonderful. So what advice would you give someone who's considering a community but they're not sure they're ready yet?
Yeah, I think the best advice is to explore. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Love to promote mine, but there are many places out there that have a different energy, a different feel, different things that you can do there. So I always tell people to explore, go out, see different communities, and see how you feel. The most important thing when you're looking and exploring to see if this is the right fit for you is see what the residents are doing. Are they having fun? Are they active? Are they smiling? All of those things are very important, right? but also look at the employees. Are they having fun? Are they smiling? Are they grumpy, just kind of pushing the cart along? So all that observation and how you feel will let you know if this could be the next step and the right fit for you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. One of the things as you're talking, especially about the gentleman before, on I think a couple different things. Years ago, Oprah was talking about doing gratitude, and so that doing a gratitude journal and just being grateful for things. And I found that really helps me feel really good about myself and what's around in my environment. But also each day I try to like touch somebody I haven't touched before, whether it's like when I go shopping or just saying hi, compliment their eyes or their smile. Because as we get older, you know, when we were younger, we were prettier, you know, and we had eyes on us. And so now it's like if we look at somebody, there's something special about that person. And in sharing that with that other person, not only makes them feel good, I always feel, you know, it was wonderful that, you know, I noticed her eyes or her smile or her spirit or something like that. I'm sorry, that's off topic, but.
I love that. By the way, we can go on and on about that because that is important. It's very important. And the thing that inspires me also in senior living is the opportunities that I see. I've seen people get together, a couple get together in memory care. In memory care, find a love connection. And it's beautiful. And I've seen love connections also in independent and assisted living, and new friendships and courage. So it's really beautiful.
Okay, so I'm gonna open these questions up to both of you. And so it's like if one of you feel compelled to say it first, then of course go that way. What does aging young mean to you personally?
I'll take that since I'm in my 60s. I'm not in those 40s anymore. Aging young to me is really exploring, it's trying new things, and the most important thing is being courageous. Really being courageous, because it's hard. It's hard for me personally sometimes to sit up here and talk to all of you, to go walk the dog in the morning. You know, the little tiny things that we do, but exploring, trying new things, being courageous, making new friends like my friend Sherry back there. Taking her to a concert. I never been to a concert. When was I at a concert? When I was a teenager. So I wanted to see this singer so bad, and my good friend Sherry, who's sitting in the audience, I said, will you please go? I know you don't know him or like the music, but I really want to go. And she said, yes. And so we went and we saw a concert. To me, that's living. It's all about continue living and finding those little moments of joy, even if it's helping your next door neighbor, checking on your next door neighbor, that they're okay if they're having a tough time.
So Jonathan?
I think it's beautiful.
Okay, what to you personally? Tell me something about what does aging young mean to you personally?
So I think it's really important that change is inevitable. The Darwin's theory is right. How we adapt as we get older is so critical. Adapting to new technology. For those of you who want to age in place at home, we have to know technology. But no question, age is just a mindset. To keep pushing your body, your mind, your thought, your education. You can't stay complacent because, you know, lack of movement, as Chris said, movement is motion. Is that it? Get that right? Motion is motion. And also aspiring to be relevant and be involved is so critical for staying aging young.
So one of the things that I'm going to share for me personally is, you know, taking what you used to enjoy and you kind of put it on a back burner, is I've always loved art and crafts, and now that Rick and I are downsizing and simplifying our life, I made a decision that I'm going to start embracing that again. Because when I'm doing that, it feels so good. And it makes me happy. And when I'm happier, make other people happy instead of being grumpy. So both of you touched on the word change. So how can we stay open to change, even when it feels uncomfortable? Sandy, do you want to start?
That's a tough question, right? Because change is inevitable. I think where I'm gonna take that question is going back to mindset that Jonathan kind of touched on. And also having a practice in the morning when you wake up. None of us know, what health challenges we may have, or what the weather's gonna be like the next day, or, going from one extreme to the other, right? But if you wake up each day with a mindset, with a mantra, with a practice, I wrote mine down because I couldn't remember it, so I have to read it off the phone. I have to read it off my phone every morning. But it really helps me start the day. So if it's okay,
That'd be great.
I would love to share. And I did get this from lifelong learning, because I listen to podcasts a lot when I'm in the car. If you haven't discovered podcasts, I'm happy to show you how and what you might be interested in listening to, because they're amazing and you can learn so many things even at our age. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing, let me find the right slide here, because God knows I can't remember it all the time. The first thing that I do in the morning is say it's gonna be a great day. I'm just gonna start there, whether I have to think it's going to be a great day. And then the next thing I say to myself is something really exciting and cool is gonna happen today. That's from Mel Robbins, by the way. Something really exciting and cool is gonna happen today. So I've already put that in my head. The third thing I'm gonna say is anything that comes my way, I'll be able to handle it. So I'm prepared for that. And then I say, I need to give myself more credit for how hard I'm trying, right? Because we always forget to do that. We forget to give ourselves credit for how hard we try every day. And then I say, I'm allowed to be a work in progress. We're always a work in progress, right? We're trying every day to get through the day and deal with everything happening out there. And then the last thing I say is, if I keep showing up, life will reward me. So even though I have to read it off my phone, I've made that a practice. Then I move, like we were sharing earlier, do a little moving, even if it's just stretching. And then the last thing I do is get outside. A little sunshine, even if it's not sunny, that air will make you feel better. Just get outside and you'll have a great start to the day.
I've heard that a lot, getting outside in that fresh air.
Yeah. Even if it's not sunny.
Yeah. So how many of you would like to would you be willing to share your mantra and let me email it?
I would
Do
love
any of
to.
you want copies of that?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
So it's like, you'll email that, and it's like, we'll email it out to the group, because I would like to start my day that way, Sandy.
And I can tell you, it's not always easy. I had my own medical crisis in 2022. Came knocking on the door, they weren't ready for me, so I'm here today. And it's hard, and it was really hard, and it took a long time to recover. And so I'm not saying this is easy or just giving you some fluff. It's not. But if you just dedicate and try, or take a little tiny step, and if you forget it, that's okay. Just come back to it. I promise you that in the end it'll be very rewarding.
Jonathan, what's one simple habit or attitude that can help us live with more joy, curiosity, and connection?
Yeah, great question. There's this theory of awe. Like, have you ever seen a beautiful sunset and you go, ah? I think there's something scientific around having more moments of that awe in our life. Whatever that is to you, right? It could be nature, or sports, or reading, or whatever that awe is. But I encourage myself, as I encourage everyone I know here, to try and find more of those ah moments. Because science says, when you sit in that, you see that ah moment, and you actually sit and embrace it, it's really good for us. What is happening in the world is amazing. We are living in a very exciting time right now, so I hope you all find your version of ah.
Thank you. Sandy, do you want to touch on that?
I love that.
Simple habit or attitude that can help us live with more joy, curiosity, and connection.
I'm gonna go with what I just learned today, which is what Jonathan just shared with us, and I'm gonna remember that. I go back to just starting the day, starting the day, finding your ah moment. I think that's really, really beautiful. And having a laugh, whatever that is, however that happens, look for some laughter. It is really, really powerful. If you can find it wherever it is, I'm happy to share a laugh with you if you'd like one.
So both of you, let's talk about laughter. What does it, Jonathan recently did a seminar on what laughter does to your body. Could you share a bit about that again, like why laughter is important?
Yeah. Is this, yeah, it's on. So, it's so devastating. I've got a 6-month-old now at home, and she's laughing and smiling. Babies laugh hundreds of times a day. How many times do you think adults laugh a day? 2. 2 times on average.
Wow.
That's sad. Smile and laughter is so good for us. It's so good for our mental health. It's also good for our physical health. It lowers blood pressure. Laughter reduces pain. It improves outcomes of tough diagnoses. There was a journalist that had a condition called I'm going to mispronounce this, spondylosis. It's a spine issue back in the 1960s. And he decided he's going to go rent a hotel room and just watch comedy movies. And he compared his pain symptoms of watching comedy movies all day compared to the pain medications he was given. And he said laughing at these movies outperformed any meds he was given. And so perhaps the greatest thing that you can do for someone is to put a smile on their face and to make them laugh. And so at the same time, our world is amazing. We live in a very serious culture, and as we get older, we're walking in and out of doctor's offices and some unpleasant things sometimes. Encourage myself as I encourage everyone. Try and find the humor in every situation.
Thank you. That's wonderful. So, Sandy, how do community and purpose work together to support well-being?
So, can you say that again?
Yeah, how do community and purpose work together to support well-being?
Well, I think community and purpose work together. I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I'm sorry.
Do you have
Community
any thought on
and
that?
purpose.
So I was just thinking like,
Yeah.
to have a purpose, you almost need to have like a community that you're like.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah, I'm trying to understand a little bit more. Because when you say community, I think of where I work.
yeah. You want Jonathan to start? And
No, I can
Okay,
take it.
okay.
Yeah, no, I think community is important because it depends. It doesn't have to be large community that you're, sharing your purpose with. It could be your neighbor. It could be someone you're sitting next to today who wants to have a chat. It could be, but when we get together as a community in a place like this today, we're all helping each other in ways that we may not even realize. Just by showing up, just by the fact that we all showed up here today, that we all have that in common, that we have something to potentially share with someone that we didn't know they needed. So I would say gathering, community, going to places like this, going out, even if you're sitting in the park and there's other people sitting in the park with you, if you have a pet, I've found even in going to the dog park by way of example, right? A community gathering, and there's other people with pets and you're talking and they're sharing something and you're sharing and you're giving purpose. So that would be.
Yeah, because one of the things that I think people probably won't believe this, but I'm an introvert. And so it's like I have to push myself to be social. I could be very happy staying at home, but when I push myself out into the community and I help people, I feel better. It's like, it is something that gives back.
It's the connection and being kind and making people laugh, or being in the line at the grocery store can be so annoying. But go to Trader Joe's if you want to feel good. Honest to God, I love going to Trader Joe's. Why? Because every time you check out, they say something nice to you. It's part of their culture. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to Trader Joe's today. I don't feel very good. I feel pretty down in the dumps. So I'm just gonna go buy a couple things, maybe get one of those cute little bags. And I know whoever is at that checkout counter, they're gonna chat me up. They're gonna tell me something nice, and I'm gonna walk out there feeling so much better. That's a really good example,
Yeah.
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's, I love it. Jonathan, do you have some thoughts on that? How do community and purpose work together to support well-being?
Yeah. So I don't know if this totally addresses that. I just wanted to share this quick story. I was recently in the home of someone who's 99 years old, no family. His wife has passed. His home was in terrible shape, right? It was highly outdated and a lot of problems. And this guy was so proud. He wanted to show me this one picture in his house. And the picture was a grandfather and a grandson. It was not a real, it was a painting. And in the painting, they were leaning on, he goes, this is my favorite picture. And they were leaning on each other. And he turned to me, it's probably one of the greatest advice I ever got. He goes, everyone needs someone to lean on. And there's a song about that, right? Lean on me. And it just brings tears to my eyes because so many people in our community don't have someone to lean on. And so talking about purpose is trying to reach out and be that person for them.
Beautiful.
Hey,
Go ahead, please do.
we were actually talking earlier today about not wanting to ask for help. Right? This is a generation of tough cookies, right? We just power through. We don't ask for help. We go out, we work, we do the things. But it's important to know that when you do ask for help, you're actually helping the other person with their purpose, because their purpose is to help you. So if you don't want to think about it as I'm asking for something, think about it as giving to someone else.
Yeah, it's hard to be vulnerable and ask, because we all want to be independent and self-sufficient, and we don't need help. I have that as a big issue, but in asking for help, it helps both of you. And being strong enough to do it, because what if you do get rejected? It could happen. But staying firm in that vulnerability and maybe reaching out to the next person. Yeah. Okay, so both of you, here's one last question before we open up for questions and answers. If you could leave the audience with one piece of encouragement about embracing this next chapter, what would it be? Jonathan, you go first.
I'll just repeat what I said a little bit earlier. I'll share a story I commonly share. Is in 2009, I was in my first job just out of college, and I turned on the TV in our little lunchroom, and there was a plane sitting upside down in the Hudson River. Ever Hudson Bay or Hudson River in New York? River. And I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen anything like this. And the person, and you probably are well aware of this story, there were two birds, I think, that went into the engines of the plane. And the pilot, Captain Solly Sullenberger, at the time was 58 years old. And he somehow navigated to land the plane upside down in the Hudson River. And you think about, at the time, I don't know what the rules are today, at the time, the forced retirement age for a pilot was 60 years old. So he was pretty much approaching forced retirement at 58. And you think about, would a 28-year-old person have been able to execute that? Maybe not, probably not. Soenberger, after was interviewed, didn't give many interviews, but he said something like, you know, I had all my years of experience and time, and I finally deposited all that in it, successfully landed this incredible maneuver. And so my one parting advice to you is, remember, you have years of wisdom, you have more time, you have more connections, hopefully, and you have more potential money than younger generations to give back. The people that age the best in my world, that I see on a day-to-day basis, are those that give back on a very regular basis.
Thank you, Jonathan. Sandy, do you want me to repeat that?
I agree with Jonathan, and of course all of that on wisdom. I'm going to go back to something that happened to me, a personal experience when I landed in the hospital a couple months ago. And it was, you know, here we go again, you know, kind of a thing. And I was poor me, playing the pity party and whatnot. And there was this delightful centenarian. I found that out because I later got to chatting with my roommate, my new roommate in the hospital, who had it much worse than I did. And they brought her in, and of course, throughout the evening that we were together, she was having treatments every 4 hours, a lot going on. But every single time somebody came into the room to assist me or assist her, she was so delightful and so kind and so sweet, going through this hardship, right? And she was just, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, look what you got on today. And everything about her was just, it was just magical. And it changed my whole perspective of what I was going through. And here she was suffering. I later got to meet her daughter, who came to visit her, and I learned where she was living in a senior living community, and that she was a centenarian, and all these. I said, has your mom always been so nice? And she's like, oh, that's my mom. But it was interesting to me, and it really got me to think, you never know, even though when you're going through something, how you may affect somebody else. So go out there, be brave, be kind, be courageous, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because every single day you're inspiring someone. As Jonathan said, with your wisdom, with your experience, there's many young adults that need to hear that. They need to understand. There's children that need to hear. As generations, things change, right? And we go, oh my gosh, what's going on now? But we need to hear. And I love you gentlemen, but I have to say, all you ladies in the audience that were the trailblazers, for me to be able to sit up here and do what I do, I thank you.
Oh, thank you. So they do a great job. So we're going to have our Q&A session now. So I have Chris and Karen running around with microphones. If you'll raise your hand. Okay, yes.
Gone. There it is. John, I have not met you before, and I still don't feel like I know who you are, in the sense of, it sounds like you founded an organization, but what was your education to get you to the place that you are now, and what kind of organization are you running? Like
Great,
that.
that's wonderful. Yes, Jonathan, share, because
Yeah, I'm so glad you, what's your name?
Emmy.
Emmy, oh my gosh, my daughter's Emma. I was sitting in here for the last hour, and I'm thinking in my head, I did the worst introduction of myself. It's been putting me in a bad mood. So thank you so much for asking me. I'm not kidding. So I have a master's degree in gerontology. And what that is, gerontology is the study of aging. What a master's degree in gerontology is basically a very expensive piece of paper that says you know a little bit about aging. My experience, though, working one-on-one with people over the past 20 years has been, I think, has shaped me quite meaningfully. I founded an organization in 2019 called Partner in Aging. And the goal is to help families and older adults navigate the maze of aging here in San Diego. We help people find caregivers for their home. It's really hard to find good care, as many of you perhaps know. That's one of the things we do. We also help people find the right retirement community or senior living option like Westmont, Crumble Valley. And then we help people pack up and move when they're ready to move. One other exciting piece that we're introducing is, I guess, 2 new initiatives. Question here, how many of you have been hospitalized or know someone that's been hospitalized in the last year? And then, how was your experience? Thumbs up or thumbs down? And thumbs down. Thanks for this. What I see more often than that is a big thumbs down, maybe sometimes 2 thumbs down. Okay, why is that? Why is the hospital experience, especially for older adults, less than ideal? And it's likely because there's a few reasons. Number one, the hospital is a business first and a healthcare institution second. Next is that these doctors and nurses, they're trying their best. There are just too many patients for every doctor and nurse and social worker in the building. And if you go to the hospital, no matter what age you are, but especially as a senior, and you don't have an advocate with you, the quality of your care is suboptimal. And so we have launched a new program called a hospital advocacy program, such that if someone gets hospitalized, we will be there within 12 hours. Think of it like a very, very low-cost insurance plan, because we charge $10 per month. So it's essentially free.
And by the way, I joined up as soon as I heard about it. And I'm so grateful, because I know if I have to go back, and I probably will, that Jonathan and his team have my back.
Jonathan, how can we reach you?
So all of my information is here. I'll hang out at the end. So please come up. The last thing is, if you're at all interested, we're also installing some technology into the home, sensors into the home, where our team, myself, this is all confidential within us, manage someone's health data, such like how much sleep are you getting? How often are you going to the bathroom? How is your gait in your mobility? Because often some of these health problems occur without us even knowing they're a problem. If we can intervene early, medicine's pretty good at having a solution. It's when a fall happens or a significant UTI happens. That's when we get into bigger problems. So feel free to come to me after if you want to learn more what that looks like.
Also on the yellow feedback form, if you would like Jonathan to call you, check that and I will make sure he gets your name and number. Also, on the same note, on Westmont, say you want to go check it out, check the box on there to have Sandy give you a call, because she'll give you a private tour, show you what's good about it. Okay, so any other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Hi. Oh, okay. Jonathan, I'm going to ask you because you're a millennial and closer to millennialism and Gen Z than obviously I am. We really can't ignore the role of technology. And obviously as you get older, it's more difficult to learn and keep up. It is going to blow. It is blowing by everybody, and especially if you don't have a computer and if you do, you don't know how to use it. It is overwhelming. And I am just curious what can everybody do to try to keep up as much as possible? And especially if there's that resistance, how can, we help people overcome that? Because it's a lot. So I'm just curious what your
Thanks for saying that. I'm a really old millennial. I'm just barely maybe. You think back during the height of the COVID pandemic, back in 2020, right? When grocery stores were very dangerous or seemed to be dangerous to go to. If you didn't have Instacart, you didn't know how to order through Amazon delivery, what did people do? Or let's say you're no longer driving, right? Didn't feel comfortable driving, don't feel comfortable driving. Hailing an Uber. these small technologies are kind of, at this point, a matter of, it's not just an inconvenience, it's kind of a life and death situation. Where to learn this stuff is a really good question. I do believe the senior centers have constant seminars. There are businesses that actually can one-on-one give you a tutor or tutorial. The technology is blowing away so fast. And then the other reason to adopt to it is from a cost saving standpoint. This is not too far into the future, but we all in this room in the next 5 to 10 years are going to have robots in our house doing household chores for us, okay? I'm not kidding, this is coming, okay? And so we all need to get comfortable with that technology. I'm happy to email the group or to Christy a video that is recently a demo of this robot. It's going to change our life and allow us to live at home for longer because they're going to do things like the dishes in your laundry and cook you meals. So being comfortable with that is so important. But this stuff is moving so fast. My 8-year-old son is more adept than I am at this. So I am the wrong person to ask where to learn, or don't come to me. But I highly encourage you to take a class through the Senior Center or Oasis or Osher or so many other places. And I'm happy to send out the resources that I have.
I might add to that we do talk about that at Westmont a lot. We have tech help weekly. We help our residents with Uber and teaching them how to use Uber on their phone, supporting that. But I'll take it one step further, AI, right? We just started having, in our lifelong education series, having people come in and talk about artificial intelligence. It's like, what is that? What is AI? Well, it's here, it's all around us, it's happening, but we really don't know much about it. So we're starting with the basics of having those classes. You're always welcome to come, no obligation. You're always welcome to come to any of our communities for these types of classes, but we're teaching our residents what it is, what it's about, what the future looks like with artificial intelligence, but also how it's being used in fraud, and you touched on that a little earlier today, and how this new thing is coming after us, the senior community, the most vulnerable, with their little tricks. And so we are educating on those things all the time so that we can stay in pace with what's happening with technology in the world.
And here at the community center, there's a computer lab. Karen, do you want to just talk about that? I know
Yes, we do have a computer lab Monday through Friday, 11 to 5, and there's always somebody there. If somebody is not in there, go to the desk and we will make sure. And you can actually come in and just use the computers in case you're out and about and if you don't have one at home, or just come and visit, and that way your next door neighbor in the computer lab can help you with it too. So I want to thank both of you. That's exactly the point. It's a necessity that we get comfortable with the tech. It doesn't mean that we're any less valuable, but us using technology will make us really valuable.
So if there's more questions, I'm going to invite you to go to their tables afterwards. But let's give the panel a warm applause to our wonderful shared you all stay sitting, but I'm going to invite them to go back to their table so they have time. But before you guys leave, I'd like to, this, as you know, is the last of my 3rd year. And I'd like to invite those who have volunteered and help me put these on. And first I'm gonna call them all up on stage. You will recognize them all. Rick, my husband, partner, and come on up to the stage. Come on. Harriet and I went to San Diego State together, and she works with me in real estate. And Claudia, you guys that were at the first 6 months, Claudia was the one that helped me with registration getting started. She was my roommate through college. And Karen, as you know, is the commissioner. Chris Powell, who does the printing of the handouts, and comes every time to help me. Stephen and Sandra, please come up. Stephen, thank you so much for helping with the audio visual tech stuff and speakers, and Sandra for your heart, warmth, and help, and always stepping in when I need that help. And one person who's not here is Kristen, my niece, who calls you guys to remind you about the seminars. So I'd like you to give them all an applause for their time and heart. So I know that this comes from all of them. Thank you to all of you for bringing your heart and curiosity and courage to this journey of learning. You're the reason this series has mattered so much, and the reason I deeply believe in aging young. Thank you.
Meister Eckhart said, if there's but one prayer each day, is simply to say, thank you, and it will be enough. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And to all of you, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I'd also like to just take on that from all of us here, because I've heard so many people be grateful for this, is that this is a small token of appreciation for your generous goodness to care for the elders in our community. You have spent money and many hours to rent space, buy equipment, find volunteers, research the topics, gather the speakers, call those who have registered, print flyers and so many packets that you sent home with us so that we remember what we've learned. You are beyond wonderful. And so many of us are grateful to have more information and contacts to live our years with more choices, more information, and more joy. Thank you.
And finally, I'm going to say one thing quickly. You've heard this several times, change is inevitable. But for those of us seniors, this will make sense. Change is inevitable except from vending machines.